Summertime, crazy time. My name is Jürgen. I am a strategic advisor in extended reality and Web3. And with summertime approaching, I thought, let's do something completely different for the following weeks. So we started this Jürgen's Decentralized Summer Diaries, and we will focus on decentralized social media. Now, if something is so dominant in people's lives, there are always some negative aspects that will pop up after a certain moment of time. And this also happened with the social media that we know today. So let's take a closer look at some of the aspects. It starts off with looking at how many players. There are many different social media channels, let's say to speak. But how many different players are there? And if you look at that, then you come already that, let's say, more than 10 of the biggest social media are owned by 5 companies. Meta, for instance, owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and of course Facebook Messenger. If you look at Alphabet, what used to be Google, they own YouTube, of course also Waze, Fitbit, and Nest, but they are not directly social media. Microsoft, LinkedIn, and the former Skype. Tencent is the owner of WeChat, and ByteDance is the owner of TikTok and CapCut. And the last one, CapCut, brings me to the extension of the dominant position that they have, is that the top 5 owners, they also own a lot of the software or apps that we basically use to edit our videos, to edit our audio trails and bring it onto our social media. So we are almost, when we look at social media, bound to 5 major companies. If you look at it from a distance, then you can say okay, we have here an oligopoly, but we can find this more in business, we kind of find this more in our daily lives, and it is not necessarily a problem. It can lead to higher prices and dominant positions and of course a worse position for the customer, but it doesn't necessarily have to be this way. Now, if we take a step even further back and look at, okay, does this oligopoly influence us in a bad way or in a negative way, then you can say okay, there are some questions to be raised about this oligopoly, and that is something that we will dive into right now. Well, let's take a closer look at the problems. And number one is the fact that whenever you make an account, and I'm pretty sure that most of you at least have made one account or have many, many more, then at one point in time, you have to accept the terms and conditions. And without accepting them, it's simply impossible for you to make an account. And then you also come into the privacy aspects or conditions. There you can walk around and work around and a little bit. You have some freedom down there, but also not everything. It's not like you can block everything that you would like or that you would want. Now, by accepting the terms and conditions that you are forced to do to make an account, you immediately also, the platform or the social media platform becomes the owner of your social profile, your social identity, or your social graph. Meaning they can collect all the information that you put on there. They can collect everything that you say or like or dislike or your interests. And at the end, I think some social media platforms have a better idea of who certain persons are than those persons themselves, simply because the amount of data that they have gathered about this person and the social graph that they brought together about this person, and you leave traces everywhere. Whether you like it or not, those traces are there to be found by them. And there is, of course, a reason why they do that, because it's basically their business model. All this data, all this information that they have and gather, they can sell this in the market. They make money of that by selling it to companies so that they can target you directly for certain marketing activities, whether you like it or not. And if you look at some of those examples, for instance, then you can say that Meta, for instance, last year they had a revenue of $134 billion, mainly with the selling of advertising or ads. LinkedIn, to give you another example, 15 billion. Snapchat, about 4 billion. So pretty big numbers to remember for further down the line in this podcast. Now, if you go back with me and let's do a thought experiment, and let's go back to the early days of Facebook or Twitter, and you'd really think back, okay, what did I see in my feed at that point in time? I think you recollect that you would not see many ads or advertising come by, and that social interaction, why social media actually was formed, was actually the key, and it was not the ads that you were seeing. But if you look at these days, I think you agree with me that, every couple of posts in your feed, the next one will definitely be something around marketing that you can see appear. Now, you can complain about that. Everybody has a right to make money, and also those companies have a right to make money. And if we don't like it, then we should simply stay away from social media platforms. This is also something that some people say. But there is another aspect of that. It's not just the fact that they own your social graph and know very well who you are and what you would like, but they also own all your content. Everything that you put on there, every picture, every video, the moment you post it, it is actually owned by the platform, and they can do whatever they want with it. And you need to comply, of course, to their rules. Remember, you accepted those terms and conditions. Now, with this, accepting those terms and conditions, like we already discussed, you also come immediately into the second topic, and that's censorship or moderation, as they call it on the platforms. They have the right to censor or ban everything, or moderate every post, everything that you bring, and they can block a post or ban a post, but they can also block a person for a while or ban a person completely from a social media platform. And there are some famous cases that everybody probably also knows, like Rihanna and Kanye West, of people who were banned from certain social media. Now, I'm not the guy who is for absolutely free speech. I think there are always certain limits and certain things that are not tolerable. If you look at posting very offensive or inappropriate content, if you look at spreading very clear misinformation, harassing and bullying people online or on social media, spamming people, deception practices, or promoting self-harm or certain violence, I think those are the things that you actually should moderate, and where you also should do some censoring. Now, the problem is a little bit that with all the rest of the topics that you come down is, most of the times, it's not just people who do the moderation or the censorship anymore. We are more and more seeing artificial intelligence or AI algorithms and models doing this. With the problem is that they are trained on a set of data. And based on the choice of the set of data that you take, it can be that it doesn't work. And there are a lot of examples of algorithms, AI, in other areas where they just used a certain set of data, but it was not valid in the case it was actually assessing. If you take, for instance, people out of Europe and you do some kind of algorithm on that based on their posting and on what they think and the feelings are and the general public opinion is, and you use that, for instance, in Asia or in South America, it can be that the algorithm completely fails. Typically, the question is, what's under the hood of the algorithm? And that is something that most of the times that we do not know. And what we also see is that there are a lot of countries that are typically expecting that certain information is banned for political reasons. And their censorship also happens by these platforms simply because they are asked by the companies, by the countries, and they have to comply, or they are no longer allowed to be active in that country. And we see also some very thin barriers down there. So censorship, it is something that is very questionable if you look at these large platforms. Let's look at another topic, or number 3, and that's we all live in a world where we are dominated by the power of the algorithm, especially on social media. But also even more with artificial intelligence now these days. And every algorithm is different, and all these algorithms also continuously change on social media. And you never know what it was trained upon. A lot of or it was instructed, because partially these algorithms are also instructed. So you don't control your own feed. The feed is controlled by the algorithm, and it shows you what it wants you to see. And that means there is, to a certain extent, of course, the personalization based on what you like, what you dislike, on the things that you comment, the time that you share or spend on certain posts. That makes it a little bit more personalized towards you. But there are also, at the same time, if you engage with certain posts more, then the algorithm will also keep you longer in those types of posts or on that type of content that you see. And at the same time, it will also show you that more, because the longer you engage, the more time you spend on the social media platform, the more ads you will probably see. So for them, it's also part of increasing their revenue. Now, there's also a little bit collected to or linked to the another topic. There is this echo chambers. You have a high risk of ending up in echo chambers, because for a big part the algorithm shows you similar things. So you might up in a silo of negativity. You might end up there, and a lot of people don't understand that if they typically react angry at a certain post, or they react at a certain negative aspect, and they keep on feeding this, and they will also feeding this algorithm with this information, because they interact, they engage with this negative comment, and they get more and more of this in their feed. So those things of engagement, and especially if you engage in negative posts and negative content, you will get, or you could end up in a silo or an echo chamber where you really come up with a lot of negative news, negative feed. It also works the other way around to a certain extent, of course. One of the good things sometimes is that you also have a content discovery aspect in the algorithms, where you can discover new things and it sees how you react. One other aspect is, and that's again one of the negative sides of these algorithms, is that they also can hype something or influence a certain trend. They can really amplify something for whatever reason. It can be commercial reasons, but there can be many, many more reasons. Some things that go viral, as we then say, they are partially fed by the algorithms, because a lot of people start seeing it. The question is, if it were not for the algorithm, would it have gone viral? Because people actually like it or don't like it. But remember, you are not the owner of your feed. The algorithm owns what you see and shows you what it wants you to see. So you should be very mindful, basically, if you click on things and with the posts and the content you actually consume on social media. The fourth aspect that I would like to discuss is maybe not on a personal level, but is more the creator economy. In the meantime, there are a lot of people making money by sharing, by posting on social media, by explaining, for instance, how to build a certain necklace, by giving smaller courses on there, by showing just how-to videos, and they make that way a certain money. And then a certain aspect of that creator economy is the influencers, the set of influencers. And they typically use their following to influence behavior or their audience or a certain opinion. This can be because they wear a certain type of clothing that other people also are starting to use that clothing, or they put a certain posts on there where they are at a certain location or at a certain hotel. So this is more and more the influencer, where you try to influence your audience to do a certain, or to take a certain behavior. Now, if you look at the global market for influencers, in 2023, about 50 million people were active as an influencer. It is estimated about 2 million of them were actually full-time influencers or creators. And they made, because it's really hard to make an estimate down there, somewhere between 20 and 100 billion US dollars globally. Now, if you look at how you can make money as an influencer, you have different categories. If you have less than 10,000 followers, you're typically a nano influencer. If you're more than 1 million, then you are a mega influencer. And you have all the categories in between: micro, mid-tier, and macro, to fill the 5 categories up. But based on where you are in this scale, for instance, a nano influencer, he can get, or she can get, around less than $100 per post. If you look at mega influencers, they can earn easily more than $10,000 for certain posts on social media. Now, if you look at those numbers, $10,000, $100, and you compare that with the revenue that some of these large players had, like Meta, 134 billion, YouTube, 31 billion, LinkedIn, 15 billion, and some other more, then you can only conclude that the biggest part of the pie, or the biggest piece of the pie, actually ends up with the platforms and not with the creators or with the influencers. And they even try to lock you in. If you are on Facebook and you are a megastar down there, and you say tomorrow I want to start at Instagram, or for instance at TikTok, well, you start the first day, the first second with 0 followers, and you have to earn your followers all over again. You have to look, especially when you move into another platform, it's a new algorithm, so you have to focus on that again. Because you have a certain following in one social media platform, and because most people are these days on other social media platforms as well, chances are that it will go faster than somebody who starts with 0 and was never active in this area. But still, you start from 0. And even within a larger umbrella platform, if you look at Meta and you have an account on Facebook where you are a big influencer or a mega influencer, the moment you start in Instagram, you start from 0 again. It is not like you can take your following from one to another, even within an umbrella platform like Meta, for instance. So before you actually move from one platform to another platform as an influencer or as a creator, you will think twice, because I will start again from 0. And to make it, you can fake it. But make or break actually happens by the algorithm. And we already talked about the algorithm before, but a big part of your make it will depend on what the algorithm for a certain aspect will do. And that means it is constantly changing at the moment. They're adapting the algorithms all the time. But also it means that you can see that more and more of these influencers are actually posting more and more. You can see that quantity is definitely the rule and not quality. It is amazing how much people and how many posts there often are. It's like I said, we live in a world where quantity rules, because this can get you the following that you need, and you need this large following to get at least paid some basic money. If you compare it, you cannot live with just 10,000 of followers at the moment, and it is hard to do. So that is where it actually ended up. To conclude, all the things that I probably just told in this podcast, you all know, it is common knowledge. You're all aware of that, and you take care of that. But where do we go from here? What will happen in the future? Well, your guess is as good as mine. The only thing that I see and that I notice is that there is something moving deep down in the basement, in the dark. You can see the ghosts, and you can see movements actually looking at, okay, we will shape the future of social media in a certain direction. But that is something that we will dive in the next episode of this Jürgen's Decentralized Summer Diaries podcast. So I hope to welcome you next time, when we will dive a little bit more into the depth of the social media basement and look at what the future will bring, what is going on, which ghosts are moving around down there. But at the meantime, if you're actually leaving on holiday, if you're going on vacation, I'd say definitely enjoy it. It's time to do something different like I'm doing right now. It is time to experiment. It is time to make your head empty. So definitely do that. But I hope also very much that I can welcome you in the next episode of Jürgen's Decentralized Summer Diaries. Bye-bye.